Hello. So let's have a little chat here. God, thank you so much for this moment. Thank you so much for this word, this message. I thank you so much for whoever it is that is watching this. I thank you so much for you in all of our lives, and the you that resides and moves and breathes and throughout all of us, and allowing us this opportunity to not only co-create but experience this life in your name. And whatever you say, friend, amen, the tosti, la la. Okay, so this subject was given to me almost 2 nights ago. And the way I wanted to talk about it, I was like, okay, I may need to do a little research because it's like I know the principle of it. But I wanted to find actual research on how it's done and stuff like that. So I did a little research about it. So this talk is called Identifying with the Body. Okay. So I looked for scholarly articles and stuff like that, but first I just did a general Google search, and it was about how our bodies listen to our minds and our thoughts. Sorry, my laptop battery is running low, so I'll just do the AI find, and then I'll go into the scholarly article, actually 2 scholarly articles about it. How does that go with identifying with the body? We'll talk about it, okay? Let me get this one out. So AI find. Yes, your body and mind are intricate and are inextricably connected, and your body is constantly listening to your thoughts. Every time you think, your brain releases chemicals and electrical impulses that directly affects your physical health, your heart rate, and stress levels. And then it went ahead and credited about 5 articles, and I pulled 2 out. So the first is from the Riordan Clinic, Dr. John Sword and Dr. Brawl Payne, psychologist and physicist. And the article says that your mind commands your biology. Your thoughts literally translate into physical states. When you think of a stressful situation, your brain releases cortisol, norepinephrine, kicking your body into fight or flight mode. So you don't even have to actually physically experience something. Your mind can just think of it, and then it goes into that, right? Because we know that your mind doesn't really know reality from what is not real, to what you're only imagining and visualizing. Conversely, positive thoughts and calm intentions can lower blood pressure and reduce physical tension. Your body talks back. Neuroscience reveals that brain areas controlling movement and thought are wired directly into the networks that manage involuntary body functions. Your gut feelings, muscle tension, and fatigue are your body's way of feeding information back to your mind. They work in a loop. So if your mind is anxious, your body tightens up. If your body is overstimulated and you ignore its signals, your mind will eventually follow, leading to mental exhaustion. So just giving you examples. So how we don't know thoughts are generated in the brain. It seems clear that once present, thoughts are amplified by the brain and turned into action. When the brain is in an intense emotional state, like trauma, it tends to go into the long-term memory quickly. Okay, we'll talk about that. Choosing our words more carefully, whether speaking to someone else or ourselves, can have a positive impact. And then it says, remember, our speaking habits do trigger images in our brain. Think and speak positively, your body is listening. And then we have from the Washington University of Medicine, it shows that the part of the brain that control your movement are plugged into networks involved in thinking and planning, control of involuntary bodily functions, blood pressure, heartbeat, and then the findings represent literal linkage of body. Could explain why people pace back and forth when they have anxiety. And then people who meditate say that by calming your body with, say, breathing exercises, you also calm your mind. Said the first author of Evan M. Gordon, PhD, and assistant professor of radiology at the School of Medicine's Malin Croke Institute of Radiology. We've found the place where the highly active, goal-oriented, go part of your mind connects to the parts of your brain that control breathing and heart rate. If you calm one down, it actually should have the feedback effects on the other. The brain for successfully behaving in the environment so you can achieve your goals without killing yourself. I'm going to trust myself and God with this talk because I do know the research that I've done before that. And so I'm going to pull from what I know based off of past research, because I am not a doctor. I am not an expert in this, in certain things. I just know what I've done research in the past. Okay, so identifying with your body. So first we understand that from that research, right, and so much of the research, that our body does respond to our minds, right? And so we understand that our body is very malleable. It's a very beautiful thing, but it's something that we have to be very careful with, especially because it becomes what we want it to become. If we want to lose weight, it can lose weight. If we just think a thought, it'll respond to that thought. Also, let's talk about the mind and the survival mechanism that's kind of built into it, and the ego as well. One very cool thing about the mind is that the survival mechanism in it, if you're not careful, can trigger you into kind of what it said, a kind of a feedback loop, but just a loop in itself. And so what that means is that if there was something that was traumatic, or even if there's something that you have to remember, your mind will go back to what it is that it needs to remember so that you don't do it again. But it's only a cool warning that your mind gives. But some people actually kind of clamp down on that survival mechanism that your mind has in order to just remember something so that you would stay away from it. But instead it turns into anxiety and worry, and maybe even rumination about what could happen, right? But it's already built in you to survive, right? I was watching, and I actually said microbiologist the other day as an astrobiologist. She was talking about with the research that they do. They find that this primal, very natural life is all about survival, that it doesn't matter what happens. It's all about survival and surviving. And sometimes we're not so set apart from that as human beings. And so the mechanisms that are used in our minds to survive, it can be used in a very toxic way, especially in today's world. And so if our mind's given us that trigger, and usually it's like an alarm system, is, oh, this is dangerous, this is harmful. And it could even be triggered when you've had a response and something is only an illusion. It's not so dangerous, but you kind of hook into that illusion, and you begin to ruminate on it, and it causes anxiety, and it begins to manifest throughout your body as if it's actually there. Okay, well, let's talk about how that can be toxic in today's society. If you're threatened by a social system, if you're threatened by not looking a certain way, so you feel like your survival is threatened, right? And it could be, oh, these girls don't like me when I'm in school. So we see a lot of teenagers and kids that go through this, and their survival mechanisms within their brain and their body are telling them, oh, your survival is threatened. But it's just that they don't have the right clothes on, or they don't have the fashion, and so they're outcasted. And they don't have there was a 2016 article, and usually we try to maybe read articles that are about 5 years old, credible articles that are only about 5 years old, so that it's kind of brought into today's time. But let's just go back to that article. The 2016 article, I can't remember who the authors were, but they were talking about how higher and early mortality rate for those who are more isolated, right? Socially, just live life in more of an isolation. Now I would say that has changed a little bit, especially after COVID and things like that. And a lot is social media. People are naturally isolated, and they get their social fix through the screens. And so things could look different as with our design as human beings with that, but let's just talk about just the natural findings of that, and how we are still very much social beings, and you still very much not only have isolation when you look at when you're only looking through a screen, but now you have trolling, and people have so much access to you, 1111 if you're into numbers, so much access to you that triggers your survival mechanisms within your body, that tells you you're an outcast, you're not how you're supposed to look, your body's not how you're supposed to look, and you don't have what's cool. Although you are artistic, it's not cool enough art. Although although you are spiritual, you ain't spiritual enough. A lot for people to come at you with. And so understanding the survival mechanisms of our body, and the very intricate but very sensitive design of what our mind can do that triggers our body in such a way, it's very dangerous. So let's talk about identifying with a body that does that is very malleable like that. It can lead to kneeling down to insecurity. Boy, let me tell you, when I talk about this, you guys, I am with all of you. I am still working on, I pride myself a lot on being authentic and stuff like that, but it was a journey, and I still sometimes worry about what people may think or say. By the way, you guys, my comments are turned off for a different reason than caring what people say. My comments are turned off because of something that happened to me through social media. It was a trying time for me. So I'm going to take my time with that, and I'm really sorry that the comments are turned off, but trust me, it's for a reason other than caring that people may come for me. They can come for me all they want to, but this was something that was very sensitive, and maybe I'll tell my story one day. But anyway, I digress. Sometimes I still do care about what people think, especially because I'm coming out with my voice and my mind and stuff like that, and since it's a journey for me, I'm not trying to care about the added stuff right now, okay? But just, so let's go back. So I'm just telling you that I'm with you. So if there is a body that is malleable like that, and it's supposed to be a beautiful thing, it's supposed to be an empowering thing, that we have these beautiful bodies that we were blessed with, that will kind of respond to us when we need it to. Okay, I am actually in a survival type situation, and like I got lost in the forest right now, and I'm gonna need my senses to kick in. Okay, I am actually needing my body to store fat because I don't have a lot of access to food. I want my body to be athletic for basketball, for track, for this. Your body is malleable like that because it is a part of what we have been able to, not only what anchors us to this earth, but the gift that we've been able to have as an experience, right, on this earthly plane. So it is very beautiful, but if you identify too much with it, especially in today's society, it'll make you malleable. Although it is beautiful that you adapt to certain situations, it's not supposed to be so malleable to people's words and thoughts, and you're not supposed to be triggered in such a way by what other people think. And the dangerous reality of it is that people can have a thought about you, and they think it, they may say it, and they'll go on with their life while you cling on to that, and you're thrown into your fight or flight situation with your body, thinking that you're not accepted in society. Let's just talk about how school for children is very, very tough, and how that is a very impressionable age, right? And then we become adults that have unfixed, we just, we haven't really healed that aspect of ourselves, right? And so a lot of people do deal with what they called childhood trauma, even if it's not like crazy abuse and things like that. From a very toddler type situation, you really grow up in your older teens and stuff like that with this type of trauma that has kicked your body into a fight or flight, and it continues to respond to people's reactions to you. And usually these people are also triggered and also reactive with that fight or flight. But it tells your body that it's supposed to react like this every time somebody has a thought or a word. And trust me, guys, I am saying this from experience, okay? I got rejected here. My social status is where I get love from is at risk, right? And so I need to become. All right, so that person said something. Okay, when my body is malleable, I'm telling it to do something, so I need to become. That's one person. Okay, this other person said something. Okay, my body is malleable, I command it, I need to become. And then your body goes into a crisis mode of always being thrown into fight or flight and thinking it's at risk, right? But also it's continuously changing. Right? You're continuously changing, even if it's okay, this is what it was year to year when I was in high school. This is what it was year to year when I was in college. And now this is what it is and what it needs to be in the workplace. This is what it needs to be on social media, because everybody's on social media. it becomes a lot, especially if you're putting yourself out there. A lot of people are encouraging people to get online more, to say what you need to say. This is how a lot of people are making money right now. We're seeing less and less children going to college and trying to make their way on social media, you know, where you do have messed up companies that send bots to people's platforms to talk crap, to engage other people more. So what is throwing your body into fight or flight? Not only the people around you, your body can't catch a break with you. Your body can't catch a break with large companies that are acting at 1818 as sharks against you as well. And you ain't started the healing process at all to be so firm within your spirit and so firm within the foundation of who you are, as integrated with your spirit, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual all together in alignment. But that creates such a firm foundation that it doesn't blow with the wind. And so when we talk about it, identifying with the body, it can be a very beautiful thing, but a very detrimental thing. I use that word a lot, and I feel like that's like, oh, I need to find another word. I'm smart enough. I need to find another word. So it could be very, it could have a not so great outcome. And with that survival mechanism of your mind, and I said this earlier, begins to try to come up with scenarios to get you out of this situation, because it's so cool. It's designed like that. I feel like, I know sometimes people don't have to be credible to talk about certain things, but I feel like with all this technical stuff, like, so right now I'm getting my PhD in transpersonal psychology. It has concentration in spiritual psychology and things like that, but I also have a background, a BA in criminal psychology, and then I've worked in the crisis field. I've worked in suicide prevention, homicide intervention. I've worked in inpatient crisis facilities for young girls, and autism behavioral therapy. I've gotten my hands in some of this stuff. I am also an advanced pranic healer. I've done pranic healing psychotherapy. So I also have done a lot of energy work, okay? And then I also have my own healing stuff. Me and God got a thing. Okay, so I'm just talking about what I've read. I'm talking about things that I know on my own journey, okay? I'm not like some kind of professor. I'm not like an expert. I'm just talking with you guys. The cool thing about your mind is it's going to try to find solutions. Okay. And so unfortunately, with what our society looks like, with the big illusion being that online is our reality. We're judged online, and this is what our reality needs to be. You know, especially if we identify with the body so much that we are malleable. Online is what, you know what I mean? And I'm mentioning online so much because it has this tremendous presence that's only getting worse and better and more expanded, especially with AI and things like that. And that becoming scarily the goal for a lot of people, or perfection through technology. Sorry about that. And so your mind starts to, okay, well, this is a thing we need to do. We need to figure out a solution for this. And so you start to come up with, your body starts to come up with solutions to what your problem is, because it's told that there's a risk somewhere, and it's all an illusion. But because it's responding to the visualization of what if, that anxiety, the information that we just read in here, that is an illusion. It throws you into what is a solution to my unreal issue. And so it's thrown into a crisis mode, and our body in crisis mode panics. And if we are continuously walking around in crisis mode, there's an issue, we begin to respond to everything around us as if it's in crisis mode. And so you begin to search for solutions in everyone who tells you, oh, you need to do this. Okay, my body's in crisis mode. It's looking for a solution. I'm going to grab at that. Oh, my body's in crisis. And you're not thinking clearly. And the reason you're not thinking clearly is because your aura is filled with this junk. Your aura is these thoughts that go into your aura, your mental body, your either emotions into your emotional body. You've been crowded and clouded with all this junk inside of your aura that you don't have a clear pipeline to a foundation that is your spirit, because you are identifying with your body. And so the most clear access that you have to this consciousness that's telling you who you actually are, you're cut off from that. And so you begin to respond to things as they're a threat. And let's just talk about it, because your body is looking for that threat and it's not finding it. And so it's looking and you're seeing people as a threat, and you're paranoid and you're acting as such because you're in fight or flight. Let's talk about how a lot of people are living like that. And so it's really important for you to have a foundation that shit ain't about you. Especially with the energy that we're living in, where you have wars going on and you have other people who are trying to navigate that as well. That's in the air. So especially if you're sensitive, you're wondering what the hell is wrong with everybody sometimes. And it's not that you're perfect. You just know that your own body is responding to a lot of that. And so it's kind of throwing your own body off a little bit. And so you have to kind of big up on your spiritual practices and really kind of ground yourself in your own body and make sure that your body is not malleable to everything that's going on around it as well. So let's talk. So identifying with the body. I don't even know where I ended off with that. And I don't want to end off on that, because that's taking you guys to this peak, and we need to come down a little bit. So working on maybe a spiritually grounding practice. Okay, fine. That's one risk of identifying with the body. I feel like there was more, but I'm feeling like since there's no more word, I need to move on here. So let's talk about very much working on maybe a grounding practice and the clearing of auras. How do I clear my aura? Okay, since it's like, I don't want to be walking around with false risks in this fight or flight mode. I don't want to really do that. Well, what I would say is maybe working on a clearing practice. What do I do? If my body is in fight or flight, or my nervous system, I try to move around if I can. I'll try to move around to get that energy moving. You want to really kind of start a flow, right? Flow can mean dancing. I also skateboard sometimes. Flow can mean that. Flow can be running, jogging, walking. Get a flow, some kind of flow. It could also happen through art and things that you create. You get in a flow state, stuff that you really love. So first, kind of start to, how we break up the dirt whenever we begin to garden and things like that. You kind of break that. That's what you're doing. That very compact energy that you have created with a lot of that potent energy. Break that up a little bit. So I'll do that. I'll go to that. But then after that, I got that energy moving a little bit. I'll sit my butt down and I'll try to get in meditation, prayer, and stuff like that. I'll try to allow myself to cry, that emotional stuff, right? Allow myself to cry a little bit if I need to. I'll try to give my brain a break. And finally allowing your space, your mental space, to be what it is. And it's that filtering of what is actual risk and what is actually not. What is illusion and what is actually not. Because whenever you caught that thought, you told your mind that it matters enough that it has to stay there, because you need to manifest it, or you need to find a solution to it. It's going to be locked up in there because that's how cool the mind actually is. But when you don't actually need it for that, it's like, okay, you're telling the mind this ain't really nothing. And so you allow it to continue to move. There's also awareness practices, right? You're like naming stuff, but you're not necessarily coming out and naming it. But if you find that you're really off bad, then you may do that. This windowsill is white. And then finally, you just start to look and notice the detail of everything around you, and you're so present and that practice, right? But also breathing. So sometimes if it gets pretty heavy for me, I will breathe and I will literally depend on myself for my own breath. I won't allow my body to go in autopilot. It helps to re-regulate your system. About why it is that you have anxiety and what matters to what has been mattering to you that may not really need to matter, that is causing the illusion of fear and anxiety, or what traumatic has happened to you that you need to kind of settle yourself with and about, and ask for God's support in doing that. But next, let's talk about the pleasure of this experience and how your body can identify with wanting and needing that. So as social beings and as human beings, with this experience, we get things that are pleasurable. The satiation of eating is the word satiation what I'm looking for. The pleasure of eating, the pleasure of sex, the pleasure of thrill, the pleasure of feeling, the pleasure of mental stimulation and emotional stimulation. We find pleasure in a lot of things, pleasure in art and music, and it's because this is God's world. It's very beautiful, and it has a lot of things for us to get pleasure out of. But if we identify with the body that is meant for us to kind of intake and experience this pleasure, we can become hooked on it and identify. So you can identify with money, right? And as money goes, you go. And as money comes, you come. And as you don't have money, there's nothing of you left, right? If it's sex, if you don't have sex, you go and look for it because you're identified with it, and that is your identity. If it's jewelry, status, and people know you as such and all this, if you don't have jewelry and status or the looks and the approval and the validation of people, you don't exist. So, and let's just talk about how a lot of that is validation, because of a lot of people do worship the items and the things on this planet that are for pleasure and what we've made status. With stuff like that, if you're identifying with that, that's what's going to happen at the end of the day. You are more susceptible to do corrupt things for it. You're more susceptible to do risky things for it. You're more susceptible to forget yourself and how it is not identified with that. And you begin to tell yourself that it is not worth much without those things. Okay, so and how is that even possible? Well, let's talk about the spectrum of love, and I really like talking about this because I think it's such a cool concept. So a lot of the spectrum and the scale of love is validation, affection, it is recognition, it is time spent. So it's a lot, right? It is pleasure, right? And so on this large scale or large spectrum of love, within us as social beings, we are looking for that love. And so if love only comes when we look a certain way, then we are going to look a certain way. If the love comes through sex for us, then we are going to look for sex. At the end of the day, we are looking, if the way we look or the way we act is how we get validation on that spectrum of love, then we are going to look, act, and do certain things for that love. Because at the end of the day, as social beings, love is our design. It's a frequency of God that penetrates through all. I'm not sitting here saying that the only reason people do stuff is from love, but what I'm saying is usually what we're looking for falls on that large spectrum of that, whether it be attention, affection. We all want those pieces of love to meet and to meet and to meet. And so if you have somebody who's insecure, they're looking for attention or whatever, that's fleeting for people that's around that person. And so they have to try to make each moment of that meet and meet and meet and meet. And so I'm going to go further and further to try to make that happen. I need this person to look at me and say something. I need this person to look at me and say something, because I am identifying with my body that has found out that it can get attention, validation, and ultimately love by looking, acting, and doing this, or whatever. And so I realize that this society very much kind of worships the body, especially when there's a high demand or a male-dominated society right now, who is ultimately dictating a lot of what the body should look like on a woman. The body is a very beautiful thing, but we do definitely want to understand that there is a larger, or there is an expansion of ourselves that is called the spirit. There is expansion of ourselves that is called a higher consciousness than the consciousness that is our body. Okay, this is at the end of the day what anchors us, what helps us survive, what helps us get the full grain experience from this earthly experience. But in essence, since our body is within our auric field in our spirit, we realize that that is the foundation. We have the foundation here of the home, and now we want to build our home on top of that foundation.